Welcome back to the 411 Podcasting Network. I am your host, Larry Csonka, and this is episode 72 of the 411 on Wrestling Podcast. You can follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, the 411mania.com website, and any major podcasting platform. Please make sure to subscribe to the show, share us around on social media, and if you have time, leave us a 5-star review. Back from his weekend vacation / workcation at WrestleCade, Jeremy Lambert joins me tonight. Jeremy, how are you, sir?
Hello, I am good. I am well. Yes, it was more work than relaxing, especially in the hotel that I stayed at. But I'm back. I'm alive, and it was a fun weekend.
Let's go. I was going to ask if you had a good time. I hope you did.
I did. It was nice. I hung out with Sean Ross Sapp of the Twitter, I guess, and whooped his ass and some NBA Jam. So that's pretty much how I spent my weekend. Good.
Beating Sean down. Very good. We like that. No, that's good. I'm glad you had a good time while you were gone. And if anybody missed it, I did a big podcast over the weekend. I had 3 guests on. I had a Cubs fan from the Lucha Blog on. I had Steve Cook join the show, and I had Jerome Cuson, he used to write for 411, and we talked Lucha Libre. We talked the complete breakdown of ROH in the year 2019. We talked about the state of women's wrestling, and it goes almost 4 hours, Jeremy.
I don't have 4 hours to spare in my life. I will listen to it at some point, but as I was telling you off air, everyone has a podcast nowadays, and as a news writer, we have to transcribe a lot of stuff, and so I'll transcribe your podcast for you if the money is right, as I do the Baron Corbin money signal. But yeah, that sounds like a hell of a show.
It was a really good time. First time I got to talk to Cubs fan, that was really fun. And Jerome and I, we did a deep dive into the ROH stuff. Steve and I had a really good conversation on WOW Women of Wrestling and the overall state of women's wrestling heading into next year. A lot of good stuff. I had a really good time talking to everybody, and it's done well. Seems people really enjoyed the show, and I'm glad. And not all fun conversation because of the ROH stuff, but obviously, stuff that we've talked about and needs to be talked about.
Yeah, if you want my thoughts on the ROH stuff, next week. Yes. When we preview ROH Final Battle, which is just going to basically be a eulogy for that company.
It feels that way in some aspects. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I had a good time with those 3, and I thought it was a really strong show, and I enjoyed doing it. But I'm glad to have you back, and I'm glad that you had a good weekend.
I did, and sorry if I sound dead right now. It has been, we were talking off air, it has been a long week for both of us. You have more just with going on with family stuff and spoiler, or maybe can I say it on air?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. Your wife is sick, and I know that feeling. It is not fun when the wife is sick, because being the caretaker can be more work than actual work. And I'm just dead exhausted because I think I caught AIDS of the eye while I was in San Francisco, Winston-Salem.
Well, that's never good.
So, no, not at all.
I think we should blame Sean for that.
That's fine. I'll blame Sean. He probably poisoned me or something.
It's because you whooped his ass at NBA Jam.
That's right. We went to this barbecue place, and he ordered a barbecue sandwich with cheese on it, and they bring him a barbecue sandwich with just like 2 slices of Kraft cheese slapped on top of it. It wasn't melted or anything, just put 2 slices of Kraft cheese on that. And we joked that is how I got the AIDS of the eye. I don't know how that works, but somehow it works.
Well, it's definitely his fault for ordering cheese on a barbecue sandwich. I mean,
I agree. I do agree with that. I don't know why a man orders cheese on a barbecue sandwich, but yeah, he's very tall. He could beat me up.
Well, yeah, but still, you whooped his ass in NBA Jam. That's all that matters.
That's true.
So we're back to our usual kind of grind here, Jeremy. To start off, something we talked about a while ago when the rumors first popped up. It was officially confirmed on the WWE Backstage show, and then WWE announced it. John Morrison officially coming back to WWE.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan that they just announced this on WWE Backstage. PWI reported it like 2 months ago. It was in September, end of September, and Morrison like denied it, and then it kind of cooled off for a while. We both thought that he could have been the War Games partner for Team Ciampa. There's been plenty of times where it's like, oh, maybe John Morrison, this is going to be his thing, but it still kind of like cooled off, and even internet fans kind of just forgot about it a little bit seemingly. And then they, instead of making it some big return surprise thing, it's just, hey, John Morrison's back. And they announce it on a show with like 100,000 viewers. And granted, it was on social media, so it's out there and stuff. But I thought they could have turned this into a surprise. And people are trying to defend it, be like, well, it was reported, it was online, everyone knew it was going to happen. Like, yeah, that was 2 months ago, and Morrison denied it. So considering that it happened so long ago, there could have been reasonable cause that, hey, maybe this didn't actually happen.
Yeah, it was out there, and I was hoping they would play it for a surprise and kind of make him feel like a big deal upon his return. And yeah, it just kind of gets dropped close to midnight on WWE Backstage, and I mean that's kind of their deal now. They're trying to please Fox, and I guess it's fine, but I would have liked to see it, again, be more of a surprise and try to make him feel like a big deal coming back. So, but he is coming back, Jeremy. So, the question is, what is going to happen with this guy? Now, to kind of backtrack, I mean, this was a guy who they were willing to let walk away when he was in the prime of his career. The prime years, and he, to his credit, he left, and he did some really good things in Lucha Underground. He did some really good things in Impact, and he became an overall better performer, I do think, during that time. He's still in great shape, but he is like 40, and he has had to have like some stem cell stuff done because he's banged up. He had neck issues in the past, so I got a bunch of options for you, Jeremy, and let me run through them, and let me see what you think at the end of this. Option number 1, he's going to go to Raw and get a world title shot, get destroyed by Brock, and fall down the card. Number 2, he's going to go to SmackDown, get a world title shot, lose to The Fiend, and fall down the card quickly. Number 3, he's going to go to Raw and be part of the U.S. title picture. 4, he will go to SmackDown and be in the IC title picture. Or maybe he goes to SmackDown and reunites with The Miz and they actually win the tag titles. Obviously, he should go to NXT. And then there's the worst case scenario. They just signed him to keep him off the market and he ends up on main event like Shelton Benjamin.
I don't think he'll end up on main event like Shelton Benjamin. They're treating this return as a little bit bigger of a deal than they did Shelton Benjamin, I guess just by announcing it on their backstage show. And Morrison, like, no offense to a guy like Shelton Benjamin, like he went away for a while. He had a fine run in like New Japan and other places, but like Morrison really upped his value with his Lucha Underground and Impact runs. Like those were strong runs that you can't really deny. But when you're bringing him back now, like, yeah, they could push him down the card or whatever. I'm sure he'll end up as like a mid-card guy. I don't think he'll be in NXT. I think he is more of I don't know what kind of relationship he has with like Heyman or Bruce Pritchard, and I'm not even sure that matters at this point because we think Heyman is high on a guy and then nothing happens to that person. So I think he'll be on SmackDown just because he kind of has that. What brand is the Miz on SmackDown?
Yes.
Okay, I have no idea anymore. I could see a Miz and Morrison reuniting. I don't know if that's the best use of John Morrison, but the tag division could use that team. Miz certainly as a babyface, he has been dead as a babyface. I mean, that's what happens when you lose to Shane McMahon at every turn. But I could see that team reuniting and them doing some cool segments together, and they'd probably be happy with that because I'm pretty sure they're still friends outside or off screen and stuff. So I think that's probably where, and like Ziggler's on SmackDown. He's friends with Ziggler and stuff. Like it seems like all of his buddies are on SmackDown. So that's where I think he'll end up. He'll end up in the SmackDown Tag Team Mid-Card division.
That's kind of where I see him as well. I hope that he gets a decent run because I do think he improved a lot since leaving WWE that last time. And again, we brought up the Lucha Underground stuff and the Impact stuff where he did a lot of really good to great work in both of those companies. So, I mean, yeah, he is getting a little older. He is a little banged up. But again, he is in good shape. He can deliver. And I think you can do some stuff with him. I'm not saying John Morrison is going to be like a giant megastar and you should strap him up with the world title right away or anything like that. But I think he's definitely a guy you can do something with. I really fear, though, that they bring him in and kind of lose interest quickly. Like they kind of do. It seems like they do that a lot. And every time they seem to be heating up, like everybody kept telling me, don't worry about Cedric Alexander. He's going to be fine. It didn't matter that he lost to AJ like 5 times. They still have big plans for him. He's not buried. And he's like on main event. And I think he's losing to Mojo Rawley this week on main event. So if that kind of isn't buried and out of the picture, I don't know what is.
Yeah, Cedric losing to Mojo. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, what has happened to this guy? Even somebody like the Street Profits, it seemed like they were hot and now they're just hawking merchandise backstage. It's like, okay, like what are you doing with some of these people? Yeah, Morrison, look, I don't think they're interested in anybody right now. Like everyone just feels ice cold. They heat people up at certain times and like, okay, it works for a little bit, but then they lose interest again. And Morrison is certainly seeming like he's going to fit that bill. They got their favorites. We know who they are. We kind of know who's going to get those pushes. And Morrison probably is not that guy, especially at his age. But I mean, they're pushing Orton and he's the same age as Morrison. So I think he's going to slot into that SmackDown mid-card tag team spot. You can heat him up at certain points, give him a world title shot, but I wouldn't suspect he'll be a champion or anything. He's a good guy to have, though. It seems like people really like him off screen and everything. He seems like a fun guy, and he's fairly charismatic. Obviously has a good look and can still work. So like that's a guy you can also use on the road to help younger talent, which they don't do nearly enough with. Like they run all these shows and they could give a lot of people nights off and just let guys like Eric Young and Shelton Benjamin and John Morrison, they have more plans for. But Bobby Roode, Dolph Ziggler, like let these guys just work with some young talent and give them some of that experience. Instead, they're running Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns to the ground every single night, drawing 300 people. I figure Morrison will slot wherever he slots a mid-card tag team scene, and we'll see. But that's where I'm guessing.
All right, so that will be the interesting thing. I'm wondering when they're going to debut him, because like it's going to feel kind of silly if he just pops up in the Rumble like almost 2 months after they announce his signing. It's like that's kind of lackluster. You just should have saved it at that point. But
yeah,
do you think he debuts before the Rumble?
I would think so, because I'm with you. Like if you're going to hold him off to the Rumble, like why even confirm this news? Like just hold them off and then you do get the big surprise pop. Like then you're 4 or 5 months out from when it was reported, and like the people have forgotten after 2 months. They're really going to forget when you double that time, and then he shows up and it seems like a much bigger deal. But now you've reported it, and then okay, you're going to wait another month and a half to have him pop up, and it's like why bother with that? I think he'll debut by the end of the year. They'll probably bring him out on some like taped show. They're taping shows for the holidays, aren't they? Are they taping Raw? If they are, or are they taping SmackDown for the holidays? If they are, then they'll probably bring him out on some tape show where they can edit his pop so it sounds like he's a bigger star than he is.
Fair enough. All right, time to get into the business end of the show, Jeremy. Our weekly AEW and NXT reviews for December 4th, 2019. We start off with AEW Dynamite. kicked off with 6-man tag team action. Dustin Rhodes and the Young Bucks defeating Santana Ortiz and Sammy Guevara at 11 minutes via pin. First of all, Dustin Rhodes, I just have to say, was fucking awesome in this match. He came out in Young Bucks themed gear tonight, and the man was moving at like 100 miles an hour at points. He was just motivated and looked so happy and like he was having the time of his life out there. And I love seeing that in an older performer because obviously we talked about Dustin. We have a lot of praise for the guy. He's really good still. And you put him in the right spot, like 6-man tag like this, it not only works out well, he can deliver. I thought this was a great little opening match. Again, 11 minutes, just all sprint, balls to the wall action. Thought everybody worked well together. I thought everybody delivered. The crowd was really into it. And Dustin just, again, looked extra motivated, and it just came off as a ton of fun to me.
Really enjoyed this match. I'm with you on Dustin. I mean, all of these guys looked motivated, but it was complete action, which is kind of what you expect from Dynamite nowadays with their in-ring product. They just, a full-on sprint to start the show. The only stuff I really didn't like Sammy Guevara hits a 630 and Dustin kicks out of that. That seems like it should be a finish. And this is a complaint I've had about AEW in the past. Like, it's cool when you do roll-up stuff and like non-finishers as your finishes, but this is certainly a problem in Young Bucks matches, and this just seems to be a thing with them. Is they do a million moves and they're kicking out of a million moves, and it's like you've got to protect some of this stuff. Like a 630 by Guevara on Dustin Rhodes, like that should probably be the finish. I don't even know what Guevara's finisher is, but it seems like that would be a really cool one to have. So I didn't like that. And Guevara just overall seems like kind of a geek, especially in the inner circle. And like if that's his role, fine. I thought they kind of had bigger plans for the guy, and instead he's just the job guy. And like he's fucking around with his camera, and then he does a shooting star that gets super kicked, which is an awesome spot. But okay, you didn't look like glance that the guy had been standing up for 10 seconds by that point. Guevara just comes off like a total geek to me, and it's tough to see because I think Guevara's got a lot of potential, and I thought they were going to do something with him, especially at that first Cody match, and then he joins the inner circle, and he's just the lackey guy who gets beat all the time, and yeah, that's disappointing to me.
Yeah, I think for him, plans might be more longer term. Like he's going to start off at this role and hopefully move on a little later on as they flesh out the character more and everything like that. As to your complaint about the 630, I think it's fair, but I think it's also more than just an AEW or Young Bucks match thing. I mean, we've talked about this with NXT too. I mean, Keith Lee and Dijakovic, I love those guys, but you're doing like a fucking Avalanche Canadian Destroyer for a near fall. So
right. It's a problem all throughout wrestling. Yeah. I guess because I see more. I thought they were going to do more with Guevara. I figure like if you're going to have him hit a 630 on Dustin Rhodes, that should maybe be the finish, and it wasn't. So I guess my complaint just more extends to I see more in Guevara than how they're currently using him.
Fair enough. So we kept up with the action. We moved on to singles action with Phoenix defeating Trent in just over 11 minutes via pin. Jeremy, your thoughts?
Another really good match. Didn't like it quite as much as the opener, but still a good match. Trent looked good in singles competition. Phoenix continues to be absolutely awesome. So I'm glad Phoenix won. Definitely the right call. Trent's been picking up some wins. He beat Pentagon and then some tag team stuff. But Trent, at least for right now, I think he's more of a tag team guy. I like him with Chucky T and the trios with Orange Cassidy. So I like that spot for Trent. Phoenix, we've discussed many times, like this guy can be a single star 100%, no doubt. So I like that they're pushing him as a single star, beating the whichever Jackson brother he beat last week and Trent this week.
Yeah, again, I agree. A good match. I enjoyed it. I liked Phoenix getting the revenge win after losing the tag match last week. Trent had a good run recently, so it means a little more. Phoenix is now undefeated in singles, which is good. And yeah, definitely a lot of future potential for him. Love the guy. He pretty much always delivers. I can't recall being disappointed with a Phoenix match. So, yeah, he's really good.
Yeah, well, love Phoenix. I think we both agree that this is a guy, like, they don't have a mid-card title. I don't know if they are ever going to have a mid-card title. At least it doesn't seem to be in the plans anytime soon. But if they did, Phoenix would be a very strong first champion, because the main event scene kind of is what it is right now, and I don't think they see that much in him just yet. But certainly down the line, he could be that guy.
Agreed. Next, we moved on to a in-ring interview with Tony Schiavone interviewing Cody Rhodes. Cody was talking about the attack last week by the Butcher and the Blade. Talked about his scar from his match with Jericho, how it's a reminder that he failed and can never challenge for the championship again. He failed last week. He got it by getting his ass beat by the new guys, and said that nobody was there to help him. His brother has entered into a feud with the Bucks against the Inner Circle. His wife is cutting off the hair of defenseless women, and then his best friend MJF kicked him in the balls. He knows who the Butcher and the Blade are, and he would have actually given him a shot if they had asked. They said they can do it anytime, even right now. They can even pick his partner. And then he talked about how MJF said he would never wrestle him, and Cody says that he needs to wrestle him. MJF had no right to throw in the towel in the match with Jericho. He handpicked MJF when nobody else wanted him. He even mocked his botched Crossroads for last week, called him a Bush League NWO version of Chris Jericho. He admits, though, that he knew MJF was a bad guy when he brought him in, but that he was going to be his bad guy and he could be the future of the company. And he said he needed the match. He offered MJF his special car, the special watch Tony Khan gave him, his shoes, and then he even offered him a briefcase full of cash, $50,000. And at that time I thought, wait, I thought that was media perks that I got. Because apparently I'm on the payroll. He gave $100 to a kid in the crowd, said the rest is MJF's. MJF can be the future, but he needs an education. He will hurt him, and MJF needs to name the place and his price. I thought Cody was really good here as usual.
Cody remains very strong on the microphone. I mean, yeah, he. I don't know if he's quite the best promo guy, because Jericho's really good and Moxley's good as well, but every time Cody's has the best promo. That Full Gear promo is still the best promo of the year, and he was excellent here as well. So no complaints about Cody on the microphone. The content was strong. I guess my only hold up, and I can see how you can work around and explain this, is, he's mentioned he's a vice president. So, why is he honoring that MJF says he's not going to fight him? Just put him in the match. We know you can do that. And I know he said he doesn't want to use his power and stuff. So I understand how they can explain their way around that. But that is one, it's a huge nitpick. I understand the AEW fans are going to just completely yell at me for it. But that's my only really thing is and the friend stuff, dude, your friends must really hate you that they can't come out and save you from these guys. All right, they explained that, they got their other stuff going on. Cool, but you're getting attacked every week, dude. They can't come out once to help you out. Man, you must suck, Cody.
They're busy. I told you, maybe Cody's just an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, that's what MJF says, so that makes sense. I like this promo from Cody. I'm nitpicking at stuff just to almost be a dick, because the AEW fans get really upset when you nitpick anything, and I'll get into that a little bit later on. But yeah, strong stuff from Cody. He's awesome on the mic.
Joe Janela was interviewed backstage talking about his match with Moxley tonight. He wants to make a name for himself, but he had been put on the back burner. He talked about their match at Fyter Fest, but said it would be different tonight because it's going to count. Says Moxley's going to have to kill him if he wants to win. Moxley just kind of strolled in and looked at him and said, "Kids."
I like that they're giving Joey Janela mic time. Joey Janela should have more mic time. He should also be doing video promos and things of that like. Like, that's how you build a guy like Joey Janela, because you're beating him every time he's out there. So you've got to give the guy some type of character, because otherwise he just keeps coming off as a complete loser. So I like that. I could have lived without Moxley coming in and saying kids. Like, it just kind of undermined Janela's whole thing, and I wasn't a fan of that.
Fair enough. We got a Dark Order video package, which I know you love.
Yeah.
I think they killed a man in this video package.
That's fine with me. They should kill everybody.
So, next up,
everyone check out my interview with the Dark Order on Fightful.com.
Shameless show, Jeremy. I appreciate that.
Got to.
I hope Sean appreciates it. He should thank me. But no, so next up, Nyla Rose killed Leva Bates in a minute and a half. I know people are going to nitpick and say it should have been a DQ because Peter Avalon got involved. I don't care, because Nyla Rose beat the shit out of them both very quickly. The whole goal was to reestablish Nyla Rose. So she killed them. It only went 90 seconds. It's not a big deal. And again, you need to rebuild her. She beat her down after the match. Shauna made the save, and they had showed a video package earlier of Nyla Rose laying her out and putting her through a table. She tried to make the save. She ended up getting cut off, and Nyla Rose powerbombed the referee through a table and then powerbombed Shauna onto him to continue their budding feud. And it must have sucked to be that fucking referee.
Did you see Adam Cole's girlfriend?
Yeah, I have a gif from Twitter in there from Garrett.
Amazing. Yeah. I really liked that.
That was funny. Yeah, they went to the reaction shot of Britt Baker, and they're like, that's Adam Cole's girlfriend. And of course, right away, all I saw was, oh, they're taking shots at WWE. I just thought that was kind of funny.
Cody took shots at WWE with the Crossroads being botched on two networks now. Excalibur has mentioned stuff. Look, they're going to take shots at WWE. I am typically not a fan of it when they like make it so blatant and everything. I don't think it's been as like I'm sure you saw the commercial that ran where they had the whole AEW Dynamite buries and all the destroys NXT, like that stuff. And I don't know if TNT produced that or AEW produced that.
I'm pretty sure like, that's a TNT commercial, and if I was them, I wouldn't have done that. But
yeah, like that stuff I'm not a fan of. But on their shows like this, like taking these little subtle shots, like they're not outright mentioning NXT and being like, well, on that other, I guess Cody kind of did a little bit, but on that other show in that other company, blah blah blah, like they're not so blatant about it like TNA used to do. Like AEW fan, yeah, I've said this point before. The AEW fan base is largely fans who are pissed off at WWE and hate everything about WWE. So they are catering to their fan base with this stuff. Will it turn off some potential new fans? Yeah. And that might be a problem. And we could see I maybe we'll talk about the ratings after this because we haven't discussed it since they were delayed for Thanksgiving. But that could certainly be an issue where they are kind of upsetting everyone except for their core fan base, and their core fan base is strong, but maybe it's not as strong as the vocal minority that we see on social media. Yeah,
we'll talk about that later in the head-to-head deal, definitely. But yeah, I think the really small little things are okay. What I don't want is like what you brought up, like the TNA thing when you have the guy come out and do the back in the other company up north for 10 minutes promo. I don't need any of that bullshit. I would kind of prefer they don't really do it at all, but I can live with the really small things like that because I really think you should focus on your own show. But as long as you're not overtaking the show with it, I'm not too horribly angry with it or anything. But again, I just think you need to focus on yourself. And that goes for both shows. Just everybody focus on yourself. Anyway, Le Champion Chris Jericho arrived with Jake Hagar. He ran down the fans in the town, called them all losers, said nobody is as successful as he is. and he had some of the bubbly with him. He hypes to sell the 12,000 bottles in 1 week, and then said he's going to be forced to wrestle one more time before the end of the year on December 18th. He's allowed to pick his own opponent and made the Lexicon of Les Champions, where he had a laundry list of names of potential opponents, Jeremy, and they are as follows: John Moxley, Cody Rhodes, Young Bucks, Papa Buck, Uncle Buck, Buck Owens, Moxley, Hangman Page, Diamond Dallas Page, Moxley, Scorpio Sky, Too Cold Scorpio, any member of the Scorpions, Moxley, Michael Nakazawa, Kenny Omega, Kenny Ortega, Kenny Shields, Kenny Chesney, Kenny from South Park, Moxley. The chubby guy over here with the popcorn in the 5th row, the ugly guy with the dumb glasses over here in the 3rd row, Moxley. Darby Allin, Rick Allen, Alan Jones, Moxley, Evil Uno, Angry Dose, Hateful Trace, Moxley, and Marty.
I like that there was a Page reference and there was an Alan Jones reference. And the Marty teaser could be just that. Because he got cut off. We don't know who Marty is. Marty Jannetty?
Exactly. So I thought that was kind of a funny, playful thing off of the list. That led to...
It was off of the list. It was also, it was off of the arm bar. Yeah. The 100,000 man of 1,004 holds. So yeah, it was a funny callback. Like Jericho, he did mention like, oh, y'all are stuck in 2014. Jericho, I like how Jericho is not like just the most oblivious douchebag in the world. Like he tries to bury stuff from the past, but he keeps doing stuff from the past. Like last week's celebration was very festival of friendship. This week with the list, it was the list and the 1,004 holds thing. But at the same time, he's like, oh, all that stuff is dead and buried, but he keeps doing it. That could, if you don't see Jericho's character in that way and you just see him as like, you think he's this new guy who's trying to reinvent himself and he's trying to get away from WWE and all of that stuff, then I can see how the character can be a little off-putting. I see the character as just someone who is just oblivious to all of this stuff and just and thinks he's this amazing person, but thinks he has like reinvented himself, but really he's just using a lot of tropes that he has from the past.
I find him to be gloriously unaware like Dario Cueto used to be in Lucha Underground, because Dario Cueto would come out and announce a brand new match stipulation that he like, and I quote, that no one has ever seen before, and all it was like a wacky variation on a match that already exists. And it's just like, and everybody kind of would like chuckle. It's like, wait a minute, dude, we've seen this before. What are you talking about? So yeah, it's like, it's funny, and I kind of enjoy it. I thought the list thing was funny. I laughed. And so anyway, that brought out the Jurassic Express. And Jericho tried to cut Luchasaurus off and tell him he was on the list. Luchasaurus growled at him and then said, he goes, "You don't actually think I sound like that, right? I have a master's degree. Dinosaurs have been marginalized for the last 65 million years. Laughed at that. I always laugh at his like little wacky dinosaur stuff. Said Marco may be small, but he's more of a man than Jericho will ever be. And then Jericho says, "You can't possibly mean I'm going to face Jungle Boy. He hasn't even won a match." He mocked him. Called him a piece of shit and said he couldn't last 10 minutes with him. Jungle Boy said he knows he can. He'll kick his ass. He slapped Jericho. They all brawled around. And Jericho threw a fit. And apparently he's facing Jungle Boy on the 18th. And I guess what is going to be a Mike Von Erich throwback 10-minute challenge match.
It seems like it. We'll see if that's the way they go. I think that's a good thing to do in this case because, yeah, I'm not sure Jungle Boy. I think, what is Jungle Boy's record? I don't think he has a singles win. No. So why is he challenging for the AEW championship? Just because he came out there? Like, is that why he's getting, that's something we would typically bury WWE for? Like, okay, this guy just came out here, so he's getting a title shot. Like, is that why Jungle Boy is getting a title shot?
Well, no, I don't think it's a title shot. I think they're going to do the 10-minute challenge gimmick. And that if he lasts 10 minutes, then he'll end up with a title shot.
Oh, I thought he was putting the title on the line.
It was kind of unclear. If it's a title shot, it makes no sense, as you just said, because Jungle Boy hasn't won anything. Hopefully, like I said, they're just going to go the 10-minute challenge route. He ends up surviving 10 minutes, and then you get the title match out of that on TV, which works.
All right, yeah. I don't know. The fact that it's unclear kind of isn't great either. So yeah, well, I guess we'll see, because it did seem like they were hinting at a 10-minute challenge, but we don't know. Like, that wasn't even made official that they were hinting at a 10-minute challenge. So
yeah. The segment loses some points overall. I mean, it was really good, but it loses some points due to lack of clarity. Because now we're kind of making our own storyline. Is he getting an undeserved title shot? Is it a 10-minute challenge that could lead to a title shot? And the fact that it wasn't made clear after that, like, they announced stuff for next week, and it would have been nice if they were like, it's official December 18th, Jungle Boy, if he can last 10 minutes with Chris Jericho, gets a title shot or whatever, just let us know one way or the other, because it's too unclear.
Yeah, it most certainly is, and that's not a good thing.
Next up, we went back to the women's division. Chris Statlander, who is reportedly signed with AEW now, defeated Hikaru Shida in 8 minutes and 40 seconds via pin. All right, let me get this out of the way. I thought it was a good match. I thought Statlander's looked really good in performances. I think she's a very good pickup because I think she has a ton of potential. Where I have the problem is with the booking, and I know everybody's going to go, "Well, it's a surprise win."
So real quickly. Sorry to cut you off. It says on AEW's website that AEW is forcing him to have one more title defense this year. So it certainly sounds like it's a title match.
Well, I guess we will find out. It's not optimal if that's the case then.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
My problem with the Statlander win is I know people are going to do the whole, well, it's like real sports, it's an upset. And okay, yeah, I get that, but here's my problem. You booked Britt Baker versus Bea Priestley. They did that grudge match. Britt Baker won. That led to her and Hikaru Shida having a match, and they were the top two contenders in the rankings. Hikaru Shida then beat her to become the number one ranked person in the standings. And now you've had her lose. So what you're doing then is you kind of wiped out her and Baker's possible title challengers to put Statlander over. And I don't have a problem with putting her over, but maybe you should have put her over somebody else.
I don't have a problem with them putting Statlander over either. My complaint is similar to yours, is that, all right, Shida was ranked number 1 and her team lost last week. She teamed with Statlander. Statlander took the pin last week. And now she's beating Shida in the singles match. And like, okay, fine. If you're gonna put Statlander over, put her over. I'm okay with that. Why pin her last week then? This is the same thing that it's kind of becoming an issue for me, is they're kind of just doing a lot of 50-50 stuff. And with the women's division, I guess these women are facing because they lost the tag team match last week. Like, that seems to be a thing with AEW now, is like, oh, if these teammates lose, then they're going to face each other on the next show or whatever. Like, okay, like, why were they teaming in the first place? To prove who the real weak link is? But then Statlander got pinned, so she was the weak link, but then she pinned Shida. So it just, I don't think this booking is doing anybody any favors. I didn't think Statlander came off stronger here, because I just watched her get pinned for a 10 count last week. And then Shida, they were rolling with her. It seemed like they were building her to be the next title contender, and they just have her beat here. Like, the women's division is a mess, just an absolute mess.
Yeah, and that is a shame, because we've talked about it, there is some talent in that division. It's just not well thought out or well executed at all. And it's...
Wait till 2020, says Kenny Omega.
Well, listen, I understand that the company is not that old, and there are going to be growing pains. But the women's division stuff has become a very glaring issue. So it's like, you need to fix that sooner rather than later. I mean, again, I'm willing to wait, but I don't think everybody else is.
I'm fine if you want me to wait till 2020, but you've had months of television now. You're basically telling me that these next 4 weeks, or not 4 weeks, we have 2 more shows this year. Yeah. These next 2 weeks don't matter. So in this division, and the fact that they don't have, the fact that they're just saying, hey, wait till 2020, we're going to fix it all. That kind of shows that they didn't really have a plan coming out of the gate. And I think that's a shame as well. They've got a lot of talent in this division. I love Riho as the champion. I guess she's doing a Stardom tour right now, and that's why she hasn't been on television, which I think is a real shame because, she's the champion. You kind of want her there as often as possible. And if you're not, at least show video packages or something. People, I'm not saying they've forgotten about Riho, but not only is she a champion, she was over. She was really getting over. And she hasn't been there now, and who knows what the reactions are going to be like when she comes back, because you would hope that they're still strong, but because the division is such a mess, and there's no stories going on in these divisions. There's one story, and even that sucks.
Yeah, and speaking of that, the post-match, Brandi and Awesome Kong arrived. Brandi said that they are the Nightmare Collective, and they do the things that others won't do. Said that
the fuck does that even mean?
I don't. They offer free haircuts to the poor, I guess. So she claimed that Statlander was in her business, but gave her an opportunity to join them. She just kind of looked at him, and then a fan at ringside, who I believe is Melanie Cruz, said she wanted to pledge to Brandi's cause, and she offered to let them cut her hair, and they did. It was fine. At least it gave us a little something on what Brandi and Kong are doing. And it's not totally horrible, but it does feel repetitive with the Dark Order thing, because basically you have people pledging to join their cult.
It's exactly like the Dark Order thing. It's nonsense to me. I love the Dark Order stuff because, all right, that I can buy, that it's this cool cult kind of thing. Now that, especially with the video package and stuff, Brandi she's the chief Brandi officer. She's out front in front of the media doing all this stuff. And there's just a disconnect there where she's now a cult leader or a witch or whatever she is. And cutting hair, that hasn't really been fleshed out. What does she mean Statlander's in my way? Y'all came out there and interrupted her victory celebration. What the fuck did Statlander ever do to you? Y'all keep interrupting everybody. No one's in your way. You're putting yourself in the way. I'm not a fan of any of this. I think it could be an okay idea. The problem is I think you have the wrong leader. Because I don't think Brandi is the right person to do this, although I guess it's better than her wrestling. And it's very similar to the Dark Order stuff, and even the Blade Butcher and Bunny stuff. It's just a lot of dark characters. And okay, put these people on AEW Dark then.
Well, apparently AEW is like the DC film universe, so it's all dark.
Sure. Yeah. I don't get this. Maybe it'll come back and be better, but this sucked. And this is the only thing in the women's division that seems to have any logical, and I don't even know if it's logical, but that seems to have any story. Brandi Rhodes, cool.
Unfortunately, which goes back to the whole division not being properly planned out heading into TV.
Brandi's got her spot. She's good.
Yeah. So next week, the Butcher and the Blade are going to face Cody and QT Marshall, while the Young Bucks will face Santana and Ortiz in a street fight, which that should be pretty great.
Okay, have we gotten to the Butcher and the Blade promo? That's after this next match, right?
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
So next up, Pentagon defeated Christopher Daniels, 9:25 via pin. First of all, I love that Daniels immediately attacked because he was looking for revenge on Pentagon from taking him out, and thought that set a good tone for the match. Thought it was a good match overall, a little overbooked down the stretch, but I like that Pentagon and Phoenix are back on the winning track. There was a spot in this match where Daniels was going to do his the Arabian press onto the ramp onto Pentagon. And if you're watching it, it looks like he botched it and slips off the ropes. I'm not 100% convinced that he botched it, only for the simple fact that back in TNA when he was feuding with AJ Styles, he was doing an injury. There was an angle where he was injured. And he went to do the Arabian press, and I saw him do a similar botch on purpose. So either he's really good at doing that and making it look like he fucked up, or he just fucked up. Not 100% sure either way. Otherwise, I would say it's a straight botch, only for the fact that I've seen him do it before, though. So it's where I know he did it on purpose as part of the story. So, yeah, Phoenix got involved at the end. Like I said, a little overbooked, but I do like that they're getting Pentagon and Phoenix back on track, and hopefully that continues, because I think those guys have way too much to offer to be, losing random matches.
Where the hell was SCU at when Phoenix came out?
Catering.
I guess.
They were hanging out with Cody, talking about not having friends.
Remember when we praised AEW because it seemed like the babyfaces had some friends, and now the babyfaces who actually do have friends, their friends are not helping them?
Well, they started off having friends, and then it's now they don't. I don't know why. But
the Bucks were helping Private Party, and it's that's really cool. The babyfaces actually have friends in this company. Then you got Cody and Christopher Daniels who actually have friends, established friends in this company, and they're nowhere to be found. I don't understand that.
Maybe Daniels owes him money.
The match was fine. Overbooked at the end. Nothing special. It felt like a thing of it probably should have just gotten more time too, because it seemed like he put Daniels on the shelf for however many weeks, took him out of the tag team tournament, and then SCU ended up winning anyway, which is good, but it took him out of that spot. He's gone back and he fucked Penta, or he beat him up after Full Gear, and then he fucked him out of the Dynamite Dozen Battle Royal, and then they just get the shortest match. I guess the women's squash match was shorter, but they get the shortest match on the show, and it's some overbooked nonsense. I thought they could have just. It was a case of AEW just trying to pack too many matches on the show.
I think that's fair. So we moved on to the video package you talked about. Allie was with the Butcher and the Blade and said that they're here because they were sick of Cody's face being everywhere, and that they came to his house to cut the head off the snake.
Okay. I don't have an issue with their explanation. It's fine with me. Did you see the MJF promo?
I don't think so. Was it on Twitter or something? Or
yes, it was on Twitter. It was not on this show. This is how we found out that QT Marshall was teaming with Cody to face the Butcher and the Blade. It was not on the show. First off, it should have been on the show. I don't understand why you don't put an MJF promo on the show. MJF explains that he hired the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny to take out Cody. But they're saying they just came there and wanted to just chop the head off the snake. Then you got fans trying to fansplain things after last week, saying, oh, well, Allie is going after Cody because Brandy cut her hair and stuff. It's a mess. First off, fans, don't try to explain this stuff. I don't like it when WWE fans do it, and I do it myself, probably with AEW and WWE, to try to fill in logic gaps that aren't actually, explained by the company that should be. I credit AEW that they tried to fill in these gaps. The problem is they're telling two different stories on why the Butcher and the Blade attacked Cody. Was it because he was in their house and they want to cut the head off the snake, or were they paid by MJF to do this?
So where was this MJF promo, by the way?
It was on AEW's Twitter.
Okay, yeah, no, I did not see that. Yeah, that's a continuity problem, and that's something I wish I would have known going into the show, but yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so that's not a great thing right there. I do like that fans tried to explain the reasoning, and that you know what, that was a valid reasoning. Hey, Allie's going after Cody, going after Brandy's husband because Brandy attacked her. There was nothing like that. So let it play out, as we like to say in the biz. And it played out, and now they're telling two different stories with what actually happened.
Yeah, that's not a good look for sure. So main event was Jon Moxley defeating Joey Janela 950 via pin. Jeremy, your thoughts?
Good match. Yeah, I would have just liked to seen them get more time. Like, we know Janela, like this is where you just cut the Pentagon and Daniels match and you just give Janela and Moxley more time, because because Pentagon and Daniels didn't start until 9:30. And so you knew right then, like, oh, they still got Janela and Moxley as well. Like, these matches are going shorter than they need to. I would have liked to just seen them get more time, because we know they can have a good match. And even without the brawling stuff, like, Janela is better than that. Moxley is better than that. They don't need that to have a good match. So I would have liked to see this get more time. But for what it was a good match. Moxley winning, obviously the right call. And yeah, this is why you got to give Janela promo time, because if you're just going to throw this guy out there and beat him every week, like, he's not Darby Allin to where he can get over he is that good, but you can't have too many guys who are just going to get over by getting beat every single week.
Yeah. See, you know what's funny is, and I don't disagree with your point about the match probably needing a little more time, but the funny thing is all I hear is AEW, the matches are always way too long. Every match is over 15 minutes, which is obviously not the case, because on this show, there wasn't a match that went over 11 minutes and 5 seconds.
And Larry has a stopwatch for all of this, so his timing is correct.
Match times were 11 minutes, 11:05, 1:30, 8:40, 9:25, and 9:50. So I don't see how that's every match is over 15 minutes. But you get this weird complaint, like, yours is valid because I think it did need more time, and I think you could have reformatted the show to give this match the time it needed instead, and probably push Daniels and Pentagon maybe to next week. But I mean, yeah, it's just really weird. I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. I thought, Janela lost, but he looked good. Obviously, like I said, Moxley winning is the right call. As the show closed with Jericho in the Inner Circle arriving through the crowd to kind of mimic Moxley's stare down with him from last week.
And Jericho mimicked the Cody video. Again, this is Jericho just being oblivious and probably thinking like this is some cool idea that he is just taking from someone else or taking from the past.
So that is AEW Dynamite for this week, and we will now move on to NXT TV for the same date, December 4th, 2019, Jeremy. Started off with Killian Dane. He was supposed to face Damian Priest, but he was not, quote-unquote, medically cleared for tonight. So he got Pete Dunne instead. Killian Dane ended up defeating young Peter at 14:45 via pin. I thought they had a good match. I thought Dane needed a big win. I'm not sold on it that it should have been over Pete Dunne, though. They did kind of they tried to do a different finish than just going into like a finisher fest where they worked up top, Dunne had a sleeper, and Killian Dane just kind of avalanched and fell onto him and squashed him for the pin. I appreciate that it was a different finish, but I also thought it came off a bit flat at the same time.
And that's the problem with trying to do different finishes. It was the same thing when Scorpio Sky kept using the roll-up I got no problem with them trying to do that stuff. The problem is the crowds don't expect it. And so when you do it, it just comes off like, oh, what the fuck just happened? Like, why aren't we getting 50 million finishers here? So, like, that's just what wrestling fans have been conditioned to nowadays, which is kind of a shame, but that's just what it is. So I like the finish. Yeah, it did come off flat, and that's because of what I just said. Not really a big fan of Killian Dane winning, mainly because I am a big Pete Dunne fan. We'll see what they do with Killian Dane. Like, I don't really have the highest of hopes for this guy. I feel like Damian Priest was probably going to beat him because Priest they're invested in a little bit more. Dane is just like, all right, he's Killian Dane. Send him to NXT UK or something. Fits right in there. So I guess they wanted to give Dane the victory because Dunne just had a title shot, so you're probably not going back to that anytime soon. So you can give Dane a little bit of a victory here. Match was good. Questionable winner.
Yeah. And again, too, I don't have a problem with that finish either. I do like that they're doing different finishes. It's just you have to re-educate your audience to expect finishes out of nowhere sometimes, and that's going to be a longer process than some people think, because especially with the kind of talents and matches that you run in AEW and NXT, people are really kind of locked into a certain style, so they don't expect that. But it's not a bad thing to do shit like that out of nowhere, because it also reinforces that, hey, sometimes when you fall off the top rope or you fuck up, shit happens and you lose. So, again, not a bad thing, but it did come off flat. Went to backstage interview time with Dakota Kai. Was talking about her match tonight with Rhea Ripley. Said Tegan Nox isn't worth her time anymore. She gave Rhea exactly what she wanted all along, which was a more vicious and dangerous Dakota Kai. And she will take out Rhea Ripley tonight the same way she took out that hood rat Mia Yim. Admitting to the War Games attack, Jeremy.
It's good that she admitted to it. I like to heel Dakota Kai, and yeah, and it set up things for later in the night. So I like this promo. Big Dakota, big fan of the big dog.
That's right. Undisputed Era, no Bobby Fish arrived. Adam Cole bragged about the group's successful November and blamed NXT for injuring Bobby Fish. He was upset that Keith Lee pounced him into the crowd last week, and as NXT's Iron Men, they deserve much better. He's not a ragdoll, and even worse, Finn Balor kicked him in the face. So he wants answers from Finn, but Keith Lee arrived. Kyle O'Reilly, they said basically that Keith Lee is all moments and not victories and rewards. He's a loser. Keith Lee said that he was a game changer and he may not have a title to show for it, but he turned Cole into a viral gift last week. He beat the Undisputed Era at War Games, and he's trying to decide which title he's going to take from them first. Cole threatened him. We had a scuffle. And Lee stood tall. Undisputed Era bails as Tommaso Ciampa arrived. He ran behind Cole and attacked him. Kyle and Roddy saved him. They powdered, and Ciampa picked up Goldie. So that was the angle setting up stuff for later in the evening.
Good angle. Shame about Bobby Fish that he is injured, and I like that Adam Cole is like, this is all NXT's fault. Like, yeah, if I can put you in 1,800 matches over the last month, like, it is their fault. And they put him in another one here tonight. Keith Lee came off like a big star. Ciampa's obviously a big star. Undisputed Era. I mean, they're over big. So overall, a strong angle to set up the match for later in the night. I'm with you. This whole setting up matches with no real build, it can be a little frustrating, but at the same time, like, if you're going to tune into the show, at least they give you something in that first hour of, Raw and SmackDown do this as well. They give you something in that first hour and be like, hey, this is what you're going to get in the main event. And it's like, all right, well, cool. This is what I'm going to watch. And at least it wasn't a match like Ciampa and Balor like it was last week, where you could really save that and build that. Like, it was a 6-man match that, all right, we can set up early and deliver late. And
the 6-man also makes sense coming out of War Games is the other point too. So yeah. It's like, Xia Li cut a quick promo about facing Shayna Baszler tonight, and that she was going to prove that she could fight and hang with her. And then we got the shooter Xia Li is going to fuck up Shayna Baszler. That's right. We got a pretty great Kushida video package up next. He's returning tonight. Next up, Shayna Baszler defeated Xia Li at 4 minutes via submission. Jeremy, your thoughts?
It was what it should have been. Shayna Baszler she got a rebound win the other week, and they rehab her a little bit after the War Games match, and then it's setting up for 2 weeks. So I think this accomplished what it needed to. She took out the shooter Xia Li. I think Xia Li was the toughest challenger after breaking noses, and Shayna Baszler's like, fuck that.
Yeah, I thought it was okay. Obviously, Shayna was always going to win, and you need to keep her strong ahead of facing Rhea Ripley for the title. I would have liked to have seen Xia Li get a little more in, because it seemed like they were trying to heat her up, and I don't think she necessarily lost anything here, but I think I would have liked to see her just get a little more in, because it seemed a little quick and decisive for me. But again, it works to keep Shayna strong. So again, it's not a big problem, and she's not buried or anything. I really like Xia Li. I think she has a lot of potential. I wanted to see a little more from her, but small nitpick.
That's fair. It's not like they've pushed Xia Li as anything big. I mean, she broke Aaliyah's nose, and then it's like, okay, well, we'll give her a match here with Baszler. I think it makes Baszler, and they're rehabbing. It's not even a big rehab. Like she's Shayna Baszler. She doesn't lose at all, but they're making her out to still be a killer. So I think for that it worked. I don't think it should have gone any longer, and Xia gets more in. Like Shayna's the champ. She should be the killer. So when Rhea beats her in 2 weeks, it's huge.
But Xia Li's the real fucking shooter, brother.
Well, Shayna Baszler's an actual MMA fighter as well. She didn't win too much, I
allegedly,
don't think, but yeah. I'd like to see a MMA fight between Baszler and Xia. Let him go.
There you go. Cassius Ohno promo time. He's a wrestling genius and the greatest British wrestler of all time, because he dominates in NXT UK. Talked about the Worlds Collide show coming up, and he's here to see if anyone in NXT wants to preview that night. So
I like Ohno.
Yeah. The Forgotten Sons.
It's about the only good thing on NXT UK, that fucking show.
Forgotten Sons defeated Evolve's Adrian Alanis and Leon Ruff in 1 minute and 20 seconds via pin. The poor Evolve lads got absolutely nothing in and died a quick death, and it was probably the best Forgotten Sons match ever, because it was 1 minute and 20 seconds.
Get these dudes off my television.
Dakota Kai was supposed to face Rhea Ripley. Dakota Kai's fucking Titantron is amazing now. It's nothing but video of her destroying Tegan Nox, complete with Tegan's screams overlaid over it. So that's spectacular. It was supposed to be her versus Rhea, but Rhea came out and basically called her clever for what she did at War Games, and said that she was setting up for revenge tonight, which led to Mia Yim hitting the ring. We got the big brawl. Shayna Baszler, Jessamyn Duke, Miranda Shafir arrived. They attacked Rhea. They brawled. Shayna and her brawled for a while. She kept going for the clutch, and she eventually got it, while Duke and Shafir held her arms down in the ropes, and she eventually got choked out. And then that officially sets up our women's title match for December 18th, Jeremy, where Shayna will defend against Rhea. And is that going to be our title change, as we talked about? They need to do it sooner rather than later.
I think so. I mean, they're setting up a big show on the 18th. As we found out later on, we're going to get an Adam Cole. This poor fucking dude. I said take the rest of the year off, and they got him wrestling 6-man tonight. They got him doing a title match in 2 weeks where it's probably going to go like 20 minutes. My God. Yeah, they're setting up. That's going to be a big show with 2 title matches, and like pull the trigger on Rhea Ripley. You cannot wait any longer. Baszler's held the title forever. Rhea's as hot as can be right now. Just like that Full Sail crowd is going to be amazing. Assuming ratings hold steady, like that's going to be a show where a lot of people are going to be tuning in as well. I think you got to do it.
Yeah, I agree. They need to pull the trigger on that, because she's hot coming out of Survivor Series. She came out of that weekend looking like an absolute star. I think you roll with it. So, got a Finn Balor promo. I said that everybody in NXT is playing checkers, but he's playing chess. His future is his past, which is the NXT Championship, and told Adam Cole that it was going to be checkmate. So, short little promo, good stuff. Matt Riddle versus Cassius Ohno up next. Matt Riddle defeated Ohno 12.5 minutes via pin. Jeremy, your thoughts?
It was a good match. I liked it. I'm a big fan of Matt Riddle. He just always beats Ohno. Probably not their best match. They had better matches when Riddle was first starting in NXT, but Ono is great. Again, as I said, one of the few things that's tolerable on NXT UK. Riddle, you got to keep kind of getting him back on track after the loss to Finn Balor. So beating Ono can certainly do that. And yeah, I thought it was a good match, nothing spectacular or anything, but crowd loves Riddle, and I'm a big Matt Riddle fan as well. I'm a big Ono fan.
Yeah, Riddle's now 4-0 versus Ono overall. Good match. I did like it. They always have at least a good match. Again, like you said, I agree. Not their best work with each other, but certainly a quality addition to the show, and Riddle winning the right call. We were supposed to have Kushida versus Raul Mendoza. Raul Mendoza was making his entrance, and Cameron Grimes flew in out of the periph and laid him out with the running double stomp and took his place.
Big fan of Cameron Grimes and his hat.
Yes, it looked really cool when he flew in and laid him out, I will say that.
It did.
So next up, we had Kushida defeating Cameron Grimes at 420 via pin. I thought Kushida obviously picked up the win in his return match. I thought it was solid overall. The finish to me felt kind of a little bit too lucky as he cradled him and out of nowhere, and kind of would have preferred if he just beat him. And maybe you put someone else in that spot if you want to protect Cameron Grimes. But, I think Kushida's first win back should have been, a little more dominant. Win with your fucking move and show that you're back and everything. But nothing wrong with it. It was solid, and a small nitpick again. Nothing major.
I didn't mind that it was kind of a cradle win. One, they've been building Grimes pretty strong, so I can understand just not wanting to beat him outright. Two, it was Kushida's first match back, so you can, and I'm going to fansplain here, you can, after I buried everyone for doing it, you can certainly... sorry, I got a text message. You can explain it by saying he's been on the shelf for a little while. He wasn't fully back, but he still came away with the victory, and he kind of outsmarted the younger Cameron Grimes and stuff. So I didn't have a problem with the way it ended, and it lends itself to a potentially longer match between the two, which I think would be great.
Yeah. And like I said, maybe if you want to protect Grimes, maybe you put someone else in that role so Kushida gets a more dominant win. And then you could have
built
but
who's
match.
Delivering that double stomp like Grimes?
Well, that's fair too. So they announced for next week that Cruiserweight Champion Lio Rush will defend against Angel Garza, and also that Mia Yim will face Dakota Kai. Which led to our main event of the evening, Jeremy. Dominic Dijakovic, Keith Lee, and Tommaso Ciampa defeated the Undisputed Era at 12 minutes via pin. What were your thoughts, sir?
Really like this match, and really like the closing stretch with Keith Lee. It's clear. We kind of knew it coming out of Survivor Series, and this is why Survivor Series was so smart to put Keith Lee in that position over Ciampa, because Ciampa's already a made guy, especially at Full Sail. He's gonna get those reactions regardless. Keith Lee was kind of floating, he was having good matches with Dijakovic and everything, but he was still, all right, we know Keith Lee can do more. And then Survivor Series, they strapped a rocket to him, and so he comes back to Full Sail. He does the big pounce last week, and they made an extra star out of Keith Lee at Survivor Series, and they continued that here. I thought that was great to see. Him pinning Adam Cole, sets up title shots, or I guess now the triple threat match for the title shots. So I liked how much shine Keith Lee got in this match.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good main event. Enjoyed it. Like you said, closing stretch was very well done. Balor got involved and stuff, and there was a great shot after Balor ran wild, and he was in the corner, and he was doing the double guns, and Keith Lee did the Samoa Joe behind Kurt Angle pop up, and I was like, oh, you're gonna die now, son. So that was really well shot. Enjoyed that, and again, like you said, Keith Lee, yeah, they're doing well coming out of the Survivor Series weekend. Playing off of the fact that they gave him so much, and he did look like a star coming out of that weekend. He pins Cole here, very good match, and then post-match, William Regal announces that on December 18th, Adam Cole will defend the NXT title against a winner of next week's number one contenders triple threat match, which is Keith Lee, Tommaso Ciampa, and Finn Balor. So we got a pretty good slate lined up for next week, because I mentioned we had the Cruiserweight title match, we had the Dakota Kai Mia Yim match, then you got the big number one contenders match, and then you set up you're going to have a title match on the 18th to go along with the women's title match.
I really like that they're setting up, 2 big weeks here. Next week is really strong. And, this week for NXT, like, there was nothing announced heading into it. They only had Rhea Ripley and Dakota Kai announced, and, like, they didn't even deliver on that. They had Priest and Dane, but then that fell through the day of. So they had literally one match announced that they didn't even come through on. And, next week we're getting 3 big matches, including number one contender match, a rivalry match, grudge match, and a title match. And then 2 weeks we're getting 2 title matches. So excellent work by this show to really set up the next 2 weeks to close out the year for NXT.
Yeah, definitely agree there. So that will lead us into the head-to-head comparison talk. We'll do the head-to-head, and then we'll talk about last week's ratings and the potential for what this week will bring, Jeremy. So I'll start off. AEW, I thought last week's show was like good but flat overall and kind of disappointing. I thought they had a really kind of a great rebound this week. I thought the opener was great. They continued the Bucks versus Santana and Ortiz. Phoenix and Pentagon picked up rebound wins and looked to be back on track. The women got more time, which is something they need to do and they need to sort out, as we already talked about. They're trying to explain more things, like the Dark Order with the vignettes, which have been really good, and like the bunny stuff and Brandy and Kong, which that one really isn't clicking for me. And hopefully they flesh out the bunny stuff, because again, I didn't know about that MJF promo, which really makes that one look bad in retrospect. And like Jericho is it looks like Jericho's gonna try to fucking make the Jurassic Express, which is really cool. And Moxley continues to roll as they build up to him and Jericho. So I thought like kind of a great show tonight. NXT wasn't the strongest night of in-ring action overall for them. They've had much better. Nothing was bad, obviously, but it kind of lacked that must-see aspect in the ring that they've had for a lot of the weeks. I thought the show was really good. I thought they did a good job of advancing a lot of angles, as well as setting up, as we mentioned, matches for next week and the week after. And not only setting them up, but they're doing it in a logical and simple manner. They're not getting overly creative with it. The things they're doing are making sense. And again, it was an easy and enjoyable watch as always, which is a strength of both shows, I find. I think overall, I give AEW the nod this week, not by a wide margin or anything. Both shows accomplished a lot tonight. And it'll be interesting to see the rating stuff, which we'll talk about after you give your head-to-head comparison.
You got that Cody money picking AEW over NXT this week.
It was a watch, man.
One thing about... Go ahead.
No, I just said it was the watch that put me over,
Oh, okay. One thing about AEW that we didn't mention, the audio issues. I don't know what the hell was up with that.
Yeah, at the beginning of the show, yeah.
It was kind of throughout the show. Like, it was definitely at the beginning, but they had some issues a little bit throughout, just kind of the up and down levels. I feel like during one match, it might have been the Phoenix and Trent match, like, Excalibur was the only person calling that match. And I think it was because Tony and JR, like, their mic was just so down. But yeah, that was unfortunate. This is the second week in a row they had audio issues, because they had some during the celebration as well, and the miking problems with Full Gear. So they were running smoothly with that stuff, and I don't know what happened, but they need to figure that out. I liked AEW better from an in-ring standpoint. They did have the better matches. I think the six-man tag on their show, their six-man opener, was the best match on the between the two shows. NXT, there was nothing. I don't think there was anything bad on the show. My biggest problem is, and it's not even a problem, but we're judging it as a standalone show, is it was a very much and Cody's promo also on Dynamite was the best kind of in-ring segment as well. So judging on my usual scale, best promo, best match. AEW gets the nod. My problem with NXT is it was used to set up the upcoming weeks, and it did that brilliantly. But again, as a standalone show, AEW to me was the better show. That said, as a setup show for the upcoming weeks, NXT was the better show because I'm far more interested in what NXT is going to give me over the next 2 weeks than I am of Santana Ortiz against Young Bucks street fight. Cool. I'm down with that match. Don't care about this Butcher Blade nonsense and Cody teaming with QT Marshall. And truthfully, I love Chris Jericho. Don't really care about him against Jungle Boy because they haven't done too much to just make me care about Jungle Boy outside of he's the wacky Luchasaurus friend.
Fair enough. So you were going NXT this week then?
No, I'm going AEW.
Okay.
I said Cody had the best promo.
All right, I want to
the
clarify for the
match was
listeners,
the
man.
best.
That's all.
I got that Cody money as well.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. So again, but obviously another really strong Wednesday night of action. Greatly enjoyed it. The pre-Thanksgiving ratings came in, and NXT won again. They actually had a much stronger retention following Survivor Series than I thought they would, simply for the fact that I thought they might be hurt by the fact that Raw didn't get a big bump. So, but they retained well.
Raw's the C show, brother.
Well, this is true. But they had a really good retention. They won pretty easily. And here's the thing. It's like AEW dropped out of 600-some thousand viewers. Now, I know everybody right away, this was the big thing I fucking saw was, oh, see, it's already failing. This show's going to be canceled by the end of the year. Okay, here's what I'm thinking. And I am no authority on ratings, but my thought is a couple things. First of all, there is an obvious decline. Nobody's going to debate that, and if you are, you're silly. The other thing to consider is, though, they are, until last week, they're still doing largely very strong in the key demos that TNT wants them to do strong in. So that is their big saving grace now. But again, the decline cannot be ignored. The other thing is this a 1 week thing? Is it because it was the night before Thanksgiving and because the AEW audience skews lower and that is traditionally a big kind of celebration party night and maybe people were out? We're going to find out tomorrow or / today, Thursday, when the ratings come out.
That's not true. They don't come out till Friday. They're delayed still.
Oh, shit, they are delayed again. Fucking holidays. I'm so confused with everything going on lately. But, so the thing is, though, is we're going to find out real quick this week because if they're still really low, then there's something wrong. They're not connecting, and they need to figure out what the hell it is and do it fast. If they bump back up and they stay back up, then it was a 1 week aberration type of thing. But again, I'm not going to roll out either one until I see this week's number. It could very well be either. It could just be a holiday misnomer type of thing. Or it could be they've alienated too many people and they fucked up. So I'm not sold on one or the other until I see the number, Jeremy. I don't know what you think, so I will let you speak.
I'm with you that it's tough to judge because of the holiday thing. I do think that might be a little bit overblown. I guess Thanksgiving is a big travel day. I know pre-Thanksgiving a lot of people are traveling and stuff, but NXT still did really good viewership and people can point to the over 50, but people over 50 have family too. They got to travel. They got to welcome family. They got to entertain family.
People over 50 stay home and the family travel to them.
Yeah, but they still have family over though. They put the wrestling on when the family is over?
Of course.
I guess. But then the younger kids should be ashamed of themselves because they should smack the older ones and be like, "Look, this is what we're going to watch. We're watching Dynamite, not NXT." Don't respect your elders on Thanksgiving. You be thankful the next day, but on Wednesdays you get your way. So I maybe that's overblown. I guess we'll find out on Friday. I'm more concerned about just the drop off when it comes to AEW.
Yeah.
because it's very big. It's like 800,000 viewers since their first episode, and the demographics are down like half of what they were doing in their first episode. And again, maybe it's because of the 1 week thing, and so this was an aberration, and that's why it took such a big hit. But it's still down, even if you go back 2 weeks ago. Like, it was better. They won by a bigger margin, at least the demographics. They lost the viewership, but they were closer in the viewership. But still, the drop off over 2 months is a little bit concerning. And we'll see what we said it last week. The show did not feel hot last week.
No, it didn't.
And I think even this week, it was a better show than it was last week. It still didn't feel quite as hot as those early episodes did. And now that we have more weeks of evidence, we've seen how storylines kind of play. We've seen what they've done. Like, there is more to nitpick now, and I hate saying that, but there is more. You see more of the flaws in their booking, like we talked about with the MJF stuff. Like, okay, what's the real reasoning? They do have a big online fan base. They probably saw that promo. They keep telling us records matter, and then Jungle Boy's just getting a title shot when Jericho said, "Hey, records don't matter." They're beating the number one person. They're throwing Janela out there in main events when he hasn't beaten anybody. If you're gonna tell us some of this stuff, the women's division, we discussed that, like, that's just a complete mess. They made a lot of promises, and they've delivered on some of that stuff, but when you keep making these promises, you're put under a bigger microscope, and whether that's fair or not, I don't know, but it's the reality of it. If you're going to say these things, you got to deliver on some stuff, and now that we have more evidence, there's less of that goodwill that is there with AEW. It's still there, and people are still willing to see how things play out, but the more weeks that pass, it starts to dwindle a little bit. And I do think that's just an overall issue of, okay, it's still only been 2 months. Like, I don't think it's fair to judge any of that stuff after 2 months. But, the society today, that's just how it goes. Like, if you're only as good as your last show, you're only as good as your last fight, whatever, you're only as good as your last movie. Like, that's how a lot of people think. So if what they saw they didn't like the previous week, it's tough to win those people back, because they're just like, yeah, I didn't really like it, and they said all these things, and I'm just not seeing it, so I'm not going to give them that chance.
Yeah, and I think that is more than fair. I'm going to say this: if they're under 700,000 again on Friday, man, I don't know what they need to do to rebound after that. Because that's just, there's no reason theoretically they should be that low still, unless they've just run people off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and as I said earlier, like, I don't think they're promoting like anything. I mean, this week they tried to do the Daniels Pentagon grudge match, and all right, that may have been a little bit cold. Like, that's not a huge match. The Janela Moxley thing probably should have been a bigger deal, but Janela, they haven't done a good job introducing Janela to the audience. They've just thrown him out there, and he's been beaten. Like, they finally gave him promo time this week, but they hadn't done anything previous. Like, his big acceptance to the challenge was on a fucking GCW show, where he just showed up and accepted this challenge on GCW. Like, it didn't even happen on Dynamite. And the stuff they're promoting for upcoming weeks, like, I don't think it's like super hot stuff. You're putting Cody in there with QT Marshall and the Butcher and the Blade. Like, Cody's one of their biggest stars. Who could possibly be excited about that stuff? And then Jericho, yeah, he should be excited. People do like Jungle Boy, but at the same time, you're going to tell us records matter, and then you're going to give Jungle Boy this title shot. Like, okay, do records matter? then. It's just very, they're saying, sometimes they're saying one thing and then they're giving something else, and that can be very off-putting. Like, that's how WWE has run off fans over the past few years, is they say one thing and they give you something else, and that's not a way to maintain your fan base.
Yeah, so we're gonna find out some interesting stuff here on Friday. Again, if it's still below 7, dude, that's a major problem.
What do you? I don't want to say gun to your head, but what do you think? Who is going to win this week?
I really think NXT is probably going to win, because they had a really good show last week. They had the numbers advantage, and to your point, what you brought up, it doesn't feel like AEW's really thrown out. Like, there was interesting stuff for this week, but there was also interesting stuff last week, when theoretically they should have done all right, but they didn't. And I'm not feeling an AEW win. I'd be shocked if they win. I think the only way they win is if they obviously have a rebound and for some reason NXT crashes. I'm not feeling an AEW win at all this week in the ratings.
I think AEW will be up. I do buy into the Thanksgiving travel stuff. Like, I can buy that reasoning. I still think it's alarming, the number of viewers they've lost, and I think it's alarming how the demographic has slipped. I do think they'll be up. I think NXT will win as well, just because they've proven. I mean, the first 2 weeks you can almost throw out because they weren't against AEW. Since the AEW debut, they've been fairly consistent every week. Like, there's going to be the fluctuation because that's how it goes. But for the most part, there hasn't been, like, they've dropped, but that core is still kind of there. And we've seen with Raw and SmackDown over many, many years, like, that core is going to stay there through just about anything. And for NXT, for right now, the core is there. And I think Survivor Series was big. I mean, let's call it what it is. Survivor Series, they were put over strong. They got a lot of promotion on that card. They got a lot of promotion on Raw and SmackDown leading into that card, and then the following night on Raw. And, you know, the audience, they see these guys as kind of stars now. So, you know, that WWE audience that maybe wasn't watching NXT previously because they're like, oh, we're already watching Raw and SmackDown, why we gotta watch this show? Now they're seeing, like, okay, maybe we gotta watch this show. So yeah, like, that WWE knew what they were doing with that, and we said that coming out of that show, that, you know, they knew what they were doing trying to do that stuff, and we didn't care why they did it, but they did it, and it worked, at least for last week, and I think it's going to continue to be a big thing for NXT moving forward. I think NXT is winning the week as well. I do think AEW will be back. I don't know if they'll be at 800,000. I think they'll be over 700,000 though.
I hope so, for their sake, because it's going to be a big problem if they're not. So
I think it is, because if they're not, then it does show that, all right, last week was not a travel thing, and it's just those fans aren't there anymore, and that speaks to a bigger issue. So
that is going to wrap us up for tonight, Jeremy. Thank you for your time, buddy.
Yes, I'm here all day, every day.
That's right. So again, you guys were listening to the 411 on Wrestling podcast. You can follow us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube, 411 Mania, and all your major podcasting platforms. Please make sure to subscribe to the show, share us around on social media, leave us a 5-star review, and until next time, we will talk to you later.